Peter, and thank you, everyone. I realize we're a panel right before your coffee break, and so we understand how important it is to keep you lively and entertained. This is about Rockstars. I wish we had some background rock music to be playing, but I think we'll, in hopes that you could hear us, we won't turn that on. As Peter mentioned, I'm a corporate securities attorney and the vice chairman of MSK. And we represent early-stage companies as well as publicly traded enterprises in their corporate finance and M&A transactions. I'm delighted to be the moderator of this amazing SoCal Rockstars You Don't Know But Will Soon Enough panel. With SaaS being one of the highest hypergrowth areas, many smaller companies today are becoming the juggernauts tomorrow. Who wouldn't have given up anything to go back in time and to have invested in companies like Salesforce or ServiceNow or Cornerstone On Demand, all of them who have several billion dollars of market caps today. So today we'll hear from 3 other SaaS companies, and who knows if these hidden gems become the next crown jewels tomorrow. We have Donovan Janus, Robin Richards, and Amit Jain. So why don't we first start off by having each of you basically introduce yourself and your company, and if you can talk about any interesting metrics about your company to share with the audience today. Donovan, why don't you go first?
Well, hello everybody. My name is Donovan Janus, founder and CEO of 17 Hats. We're a complete business management system for today's entrepreneurs, or Generation E as we like to call them. So think freelancers, self-employed, micro businesses of 1 to 5. We started a company, and it was actually inspired by my wife when she started her business. And she was just typical business of one, is very creative. And she loved the creative part of her business, but the business part not so much. She had no experience with invoicing, contracts, bookkeeping, etc. And sure, there's an app for all those things, but that really was the problem of the solution. So we built a system that allows people to manage the entire client lifecycle in one app: CRM, lead nurturing, online proposals, contracts, bookkeeping, etc. We launched in 2014, October 2014, and currently have a little over 13,000 paying users.
Great, thank you. Robin?
Hi, my name's Robin Richards. I'm chairman and CEO of CareerArc Group. CareerArc is an HR technology company that specializes in brand management, both the protection and the amplification of a company's brand through 2 of our solutions. One is social recruiting, which has come on the landscape the last few years, and the other is universal outplacement. So we deal at both sides of the arc. We have 800 enterprise clients. Hard to come by a name you don't know that is not one of our customers. And we're growing rapidly, and reputation is now 25% of a company's enterprise value. And companies protecting and amplifying their brand helps them, of course, in recruiting and in enterprise value, as well as employee satisfaction. Thank you.
Great, thanks. And Amit?
Thank you, Nimish. My name is Amit Jain, founder of Bridge. We are changing the world of retail marketing. All of us come to believe that offline retailers cannot do closed-loop marketing. If they do digital marketing, they do not know if a person showed up in the store or not. We are the first company to actually solve that problem utilizing data sitting inside the POS systems. We've been very fortunate and found a product that is very disruptive and changing the fundamental viewpoint in how these retail businesses are run today across different functions: marketing, operations, product, pricing, you name it. We have found a category that is very large, very underserved, has allowed the company to grow extremely rapidly. A very simple and clear value proposition is allowing our company to, if we walk into 10 doors, we come back with 9 of them in our bag as a customer. So very excited about the opportunity and honored to be here.
Right. Well, a lot of these companies are relatively new in this, the life cycle of a company, and yet many of them have already evolved to where they are right now. Donovan, tell us sort of how your business has evolved, and before you do, maybe you can just let the audience know, how did you come up with the name 17 Hats?
Lots of drinks at a delayed United flight at O'Hare. So basically, I wanted a name that explains what we're about. You know, as a business owner, you wear many different hats, and wanted a name that started with a number, so it's at the front of any alphabetical list or a trade show, or magazines, etc. And then lastly, if you take the number 1 and number 7 and put them together, it kind of is the top of a hat. So it fits, very well. And of course, the most important part, the domain name was actually available.
That's great. So when you were starting your business, did you know exactly where you were going to be today, or has it evolved over a period of time?
It's definitely evolved. So the idea came to me in 2011. First, my wife was experiencing this issue. Then there was a great article in the New York Times about all these people that made the jump from a corporate job to start their own business, and then they were overwhelmed with paperwork and spent 70% of their time on activities that don't produce any revenue. So the idea has always been to create this all-in-one complete system. And when we did our MVP in 2012, they all felt miserably because it was way too hard to use. And it was typical software designed by engineers that was very functional, but not as user-friendly. So when we rebuilt in 2014, we really focused on usability, and that helped a lot. But I think the biggest thing that we're learning out of being doing this for about 18 months is that the human touch is still very important. People that start a business without a lot of business experience just need somebody to really kind of coach them along. So while software is a big part of that equation, the education about how to properly structure your business in terms of process is the other part of the equation. So we're really focusing on adding a human touch to all our customer interactions.
Wow, in 18 months you've evolved. I've got leftovers in my refrigerator that's older than that. Amit, how about you? Can you tell us a little bit about how your business has evolved since you started?
It was a straight line. No, not really. We started as a marketing automation business with the general idea that I described, but we were focusing on small and medium businesses because we believed that they're never going to have resources to do this themselves. And very painfully, we realized when you start to go after the SMB market, you're a sales organization first and a product second. And even after that, a person can wake up and you might be perfectly delivering them the value. They still want to cut you out because they got to go and open up the kitchen or show up in the store. Very quickly, we learned it wasn't the good product market fit, essentially, wasted about a year and a half doing that. And along the way, we had found some enterprise customers who taught us that this was extremely meaningful to them. And we evolved from there, and today, we are definitely one of the most important partners to these businesses.
Oh, it's impressive. So every SaaS company, the common adjective that's being used is hypergrowth. But for that to happen, there has to be a lot of pivoting points that usually occurs in the stage of the company. Robin, can you tell us some of the key pivots that you've experienced in your company?
Sure. There's probably way too many to share. Pivoting, as you know, this is my 5th startup, and we've sold the other 4. And pivots are about guts. Pivots are about understanding that sunk cost doesn't matter if you can't get to the next goal. And I think the pivots come in a lot of ways. They come in pricing, they come in business model, they come in product. And the most transformational pivot we did was in the outplacement side of the arc. Has been, the same for 40 or 50 years. You go to a bricks and mortar, right? You sit down at 9 o'clock and learn how to do a resume, and 1 o'clock and learn how to do an interview. It's not how people work. It's not how people wanted to work, and it wasn't necessary. The coaches weren't able to be amplified across the country. If you were in Dallas, you coached only the people you had in Dallas. So see, we said, why don't we do virtual coaching? Uber coaching, if you will, with world-class coachers that we could do on Skype. And we said, instead of trying to charge less because we had such a tremendous price advantage over the bricks and mortar guys, we started out by, charging less. And we said, we can go at them with an 80% reduction in price. And customers were saying that was interesting. And the virtual aspect was interesting, but you still had this kind of problem where the top of the triangle was all the people when they left your company that were getting the services. And we're in a country now in a world now that believes in democratization. Why do the fancy people get the stuff and the regular people not get the stuff? And so we said, why don't we just switch this to SaaS? Why don't we make it one price fits all based upon your stratification of your employee size and let you give it to everybody? If they come in contact with your company, give it to them. Give them this product and help people that come in contact with your company get professional, world-class job transition services to move to the next level. So we could do that with people for RIFs, for reductions in force. They didn't have to make a decision, where do we stop and where do we spend? Flat fee, significantly cheaper. We said, what about spouses of current employees? They lose their job, isn't that something we'd like to do? Flat fee, they could use that. What about at the front end for declined candidates or candidate care? Big issue on brand and reputation, right? Why don't we give it to everybody that interacted with our company there so that they have a good experience with us? And as soon as we made that pivot to a pricing pivot, right, a business model pivot, things took off and we got hundreds of customers very, very quickly.
Oh, that's a great model. This is your fifth startup. Is the pivoting gets less as you do more and more startups?
I think actually the pivoting gets more because your guts grow, right?
There you go.
And you really have to be able to look in the mirror with confidence and say, you know, I kind of blew that one. Let's get out of there fast, right? Let's move over here. It's not working. You know, speed is everything. It's the only thing a small company has against large competitors and predators is speed. You don't have money, you don't have brains, but you do have decisiveness and speed. And we try to use that.
Great. Well, Amit, I know this is your first startup. You were previously with Google. How about, what are some of the key pivots that you saw in your company?
I think the most important one is to finding the right product market fit. And one learning I probably will share is many times you see your product is actually getting adopted and you really don't know if the sales guy is selling something you can deliver, whatnot. You end up having several false starts. And you really have to see behind them and see which one is absolutely real that you can get behind. Even in SMB market, our product evolved into multiple iterations. Only thing that was constant across the board is change. And once you find the product market fit, a lot of the complexity automatically goes away. Your message becomes very clear on its own because your value proposition is there, your customers understand it. And I think those are the clear signals that you're achieving your product market fit and it's not really a false start. And of course, then time will tell you that it wasn't really a false start.
Great. So every company needs to have capital in order to be successful, and especially as an earlier stage company. But sometimes capital comes with a price. How has funding changed your company, both good and bad, in the way you guys are now operating?
Well, we have several investors here, so I'll start with all the bad things.
Okay.
Seriously, actually, it's been very easy for us to raise money up to this point. And we've lucked out, I think, with the investors that we have. I won't call them out here, but it's been really good to have investors that have been real partners that want to help grow the business, that kind of nudge you along if they see you're on the wrong path, but also let you build the business properly. This is my third startup. The second one is still running, but we never raised funding for that, and as a result, we could never really compete with other companies that were better funded. So we did a seed round and A round last year. And raising the investment has allowed us to move a lot faster. It has allowed us to attract talent that otherwise we would not have been able to attract, because it does give you a certain credibility and makes the risk less in a very competitive job market. This allows us to invest in people and product, as well as in different marketing initiatives that we've been able to learn a lot from and just move a lot faster. As Robin said, speed is of the essence, and being able to raise the funding needed, we've been able to accelerate that growth as needed.
Great. Robin, you want to comment on that as well?
Well, the more the better, right? Startups need money because aggressive startups make mistakes. And money camouflages mistakes, right? So you can make mistakes with a lot of money. I hear so many young entrepreneurs that they sit on the sideline, they don't want great partners from some of the VCs we've seen or some of the private equity guys we've seen because they might lose a little of what they don't already have, right? And so it always makes me laugh. I said, take the money, take the partnership, grow the business. I've found over the years that if by chance you let your equity get away from you a little bit because you needed the money to grow fast, private equity guys, VC guys are very, very astute about recutting that deal if you grow and you win. Win, redo the deal, right? They don't care, just win, right?
Yeah, if I can add to that, it also allows you to, and this was very evident with my second company where we didn't raise funding, and this was an online photo sales platform for professional photographers, which did extremely well 2008, even 2009, and then that whole market collapsed because the iPhone came out and Facebook, and all of a sudden nobody bought prints anymore, and we had all our capital invested in a photo lab, and we tried to raise money in 2009, which wasn't the right time to raise money. But because of that, we were never able to grow that business. And if you raise enough capital now and make sure you're not underfunded, at least it allows you to, weather the turbulence that will come your way eventually.
Right. Amit?
I think Robin was right. Capital solves a lot of problems, and it gives you more chance. Two things are important, I think, for a startup. Don't spend the money you don't have. Make the runway last as long as you can. Time will solve your challenges, essentially, if you can raise capital. Picking the right partners is equally important because they need to let you make mistakes and they need to let you run. I've been very fortunate. I've had great partners throughout this company's life. Never really put together a PowerPoint to raise money. Everything was done on really talking about the business, where we were heading. And even that has raised us more than $10 million to date. So it's possible to do that if you have a great business, great partners.
Must be good. So once you have money, you then also need to determine whether you want to be focused in your business line or do you need to think about expansion and to also think about how to change that growth of your business to really reflect where you want to go. I guess this question is, Amit, Robin, why don't we start with you? Tell us about how you've chosen to sort of expand some of your product lines or to jettison some of those products so that you can be more clearly defined as to where you're going.
We had, early on, we had three solutions, right? In the career arc, we started with internships.com, and we're very, very proud of that. It was kind of a B2C company. We created a marketplace, again, a theme of democratization, so the little guy gets his shot, right? And you don't have to have a rich dad or an uncle. You could go to a central place and find a great, internship. We sold that business to Chegg, and it was hard because we had to focus, right? We had a B2C, we had a B2B, and we had another B2B solution. So we said, listen, if we want to go faster and we want to really dominate, and right now we are the largest social recruiting company in the world, and by quite a margin. And we said, how do we get more money? We've raised a fair amount of money. We needed gas and we needed it fast. At some point, we raised a fair amount of money. You don't want any more money from the same place. We were a little later in our stage, a few years in. And we said, hey, we have a pretty unique asset that fits nicely with somebody else and then allows us to focus on our B2B play. So we took internships.com and we sold it for 8 figures to Chegg, right? Which was you hear valuations. Valuations are like art. They're in the eye of the beholder. We sold it to Chegg, I think, for 11 times revenue at the time. But it was a perfect fit for them, right? It's everything their 6 million college students need. And for us, we were having a harder time monetizing it, but we could take that capital without going out to raise money and then use that capital for growth in our new pure B2B firm.
Right. So Amit, unlike Robin, where he jettisoned an asset, you decided to really hyper-focus on one particular industry. What made you come to that realization?
It's again focus, because as you start to solve these problems, you realize as a startup you don't have as many resources to do a lot, but there is a counterforce against you. Your investors want the market to be as big as possible. And very quickly we realized as a company we can handle retail and restaurant. Technically the technology works for anything that is offline business. But very quickly realizing that if you focus laser sharp on one vertical, get that done, build that right, you have built a business nobody can disrupt, and you can build a lot more behind it. Maybe somebody will come and leapfrog us on a category or two, but we are still learning and getting there, and we can go after category 3, 4, and 5. But focus was the key, and if we did not do that, we would probably not exist today.
And vertical domination has real value to buyers, right?
Mm-hmm. So. Absolutely. So let me pose this question to all of you, sort of the current environment. How do you see this playing out on a macro level, and also with your company, and in terms of expansion and that continued growth of your recurring revenue? Donovan, why don't we start with you?
Well, I think the key word there is revenue, right? I mean, money helps to, with a lot of things, and if you have that revenue, and there's still a lot of companies out there today that try to raise money without any revenue. And in my experience, if you have any revenue, if you can show, a path to profitability in the next few years, that expansion funding would still be available. Granted, it was a lot easier 4 weeks ago than it is today, but lots of companies were funded in 2009 and 2010. So I think it's, as any startup, you want to listen to your customers. So if you do have to add a product or invest in something that you can see a big need for and solves a real pain point, I think that money will still be available.
Great. Robin?
It's always a good time, right? In an earthquake, the guy that fixes windows, everybody else is subtle, and he's having a great day, right? We try to create businesses where our solutions move into hyper growth when it's really good, like recruiting, and they move into hyper growth when it's really bad, like outplacement, right? And in the meantime, smaller companies just have to perform. We're not as subject to the macroeconomic whims of companies that, have half the world's market, right? A little $20, $30, $40 million business in a multi-billion-dollar sector, we're going to be all right, right? Just try and find places that you can grow. It might take a few more sales calls. Sales cycle might elongate a little bit. Gross margins might drop a tad. But at the size of most, 5-year-old and under businesses, you're going to be fine if you just stay to it and try to see if you have products that are good when it's bad and good when it's not so good.
I like it. And Amit?
Yep, I think I'll say recurring revenue is the key word. I think in our businesses in current environment, market is very fickle. I think macro market is changing, valuations are adjusting. But in my experience with our own business, Bridge, have not seen the impact of that, have seen, in fact, more interest, and it could be because people always are looking to invest in great businesses. Nobody's sitting around and not doing anything. And I will say having a SaaS business model does help. Recurring revenue is definitely valuable to the market, and I've seen that helping us in the process.
Yeah, I mean, judging by my inbox, there's still a lot of appetite for deal flow right now.
That's good. Well, we're getting ready for our questions from the audience. If there are any, please raise your hand and we'll get those questions to them. And if not, we're going to perhaps change it up. Well, actually, we have one over there.
Too fast.
Yeah, so
I can take that.
If you could repeat the question, I was having a hard time hearing you a little bit. Go ahead, Amit. Repeat the question for the audience first.
Just let me know if I got it right. I think the question is, when you're pivoting and if the pivot is going to impact your customers, how do you communicate it to the customers that you no longer serve this group, now you want to serve this group. Is that right? I think you want to be upfront and honest, and you go to those customers and say, I am no longer going to be able to help you because this is not what I do anymore. And we have done that because when we moved from SMB world to our other enterprise world, we essentially went back to everybody and said the same thing. And even in enterprise business, as we evolved, we actually never lost a customer as our product changed, but we continue to build capabilities and remove capabilities. And being upfront and being honest with the customer is the number one formula for not losing them, at least in our experience.
100% agree. I think you also have to ensure that your customer success people that deal on an ongoing basis in recurring revenue companies with the customer buy into the fact that your pivot was for the benefit of the customer. Right? And so you have to sell for the benefit of the customer why you did that, even though there's change. And you have to get your own people to believe it was for the benefit, and it must be authentic. And if so, you let the chips fall where they may then, right? Because you're being honest and authentic.
I agree. More questions out there. Well, why don't we have the panel members ask themselves questions to each other. Something that you wanted to know about the other person's company, but was no one ever asked you to, no one ever gave you the answer, or you always wanted to know. But here's a chance for you to, like, Robin, you just mentioned you're the largest social HR company in the world. I mean, that's just incredible. I mean, this is...
Well, it's only been around for a year and a half or 2 years.
Even more incredible.
But
how does that happen?
We have. Well, I think you need to understand when you're a B2B company that you have to give, especially a recurring revenue company, that you have to work referrals hard, right? If you overinvest, if you will, into client success, then you buy permission, if you will, to ask for referrals. And I think you early on have to be very aggressive with that permission. And you have to be very authentic, and you have to be a person that really spends on customer service. And I think, you have to pay people, right? You have to pay your employees to produce. We talk about technology, we talk about disintermediation, but at the end of the day, a motivated employee, a motivated teammate, can do more than any machine, any code, anything. And a demotivated teammate is the silent killer of all companies. So motivate your teammates, treat them as teammates, pay the heck out of them, and if they win, and get rid of them if they're no good. And they'll carry you home.
Great. Donovan?
So you said this was your 5th company. What's the biggest lesson you wish you'd known when you started your 1st or 2nd?
My biggest lesson is to, as the CEO, you get very tired sometimes, or you think you get tired of telling people what a great tomorrow there is, because you believe it. One of the things all of us entrepreneurs have is a little bit of irrational optimism, right? And so you have to continue to inject that into your people. And the thing that I've noticed over 25 years of doing this is your people join small companies because they want the magic of the journey, they want the magic of the hunt and the magic of the victory, and they never get tired of hearing it's going to be better tomorrow, and tell them every day, and have empathy for them and care about what they do personally, and if you do that, if you care about what your teammates do personally and how they live their life and how you can help them succeed, they'll put you on their shoulders and take you home. They'll figure things out for you and follow you.
Well, I'm inspired. Looks like there's a question up in the back.
My question is about pivot. So what indicators do you look for? When do you know this is a good time to pivot? Or do you know I haven't tried hard enough yet? Or you go for more time or time to pivot? How do you know that?
Gut feeling, I think.
Yeah, great pivots are instinct, I think. And instinct is scary and gets less scary with age and time and experience, right?
I mean, in our case, like I said, our MVP really didn't work very well. And so the question was, are people not interested in what we have to offer, or did our execution just suck? And in our case, our execution sucked. So when we did it again and we took those lessons and we launched it under a different name, it just took off. So it's very easy to have killed the company at that point, but we saw enough glimmers of hope that we thought, no, there's something really here.
And executives don't listen to their rank and file often enough. They know before you know, right? And if you listen to them and you talk to them and you do a lot of walk-around management, small companies need a lot of walk-around management. How you doing? What are you learning? What's hard? What's easy? What should we do more of? Where am I failing? And they have the freedom and the confidence to say, boss, you're really screwing this one up, right? We really need to lower this price, or we really need to go here, or we really need to go there. They know before we know.
That's great. Well, there you have it, the SoCal Rockstars. One day when you guys become big and famous, remember that it all started here and that I was the moderator. Thank you.